Hey everyone, it's Nick from Nick's Crossing, and welcome to another episode of Nick's Reviews, where I review O-scale motive power, rolling stock, and accessories. And today we have 5 of my beloved pieces of the collection, and these are part of my Prewar collection, which I started getting into on Monday Run Days, which are every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We run all kinds of things, talk about trains and events and updates, so definitely check that out. But one of my viewers recommended running some pre-war items, so we did that a little bit later in the stream. And he said, you know, pull out one of these 1688s. He wanted to see them, and I have 5 that run. I have about 14 of these locomotives that, you know, they need a little bit of help, but these are part of the running fleet. Some of them have their own personalities and everything, and we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. These locomotives are late pre-war. They're from the 1930s into the early 1940s, right before World War II. And the older ones on the left, the silver, are the older variations, and then the black is the later variation. Now this one we'll get into a little bit later as well, but what I did, I basically placed these from basically oldest to newest, going down the line, and this one has a very special story. The reason why I have a soft spot for these locomotives is because when I was a youngster, I actually had the black variation right here. Now what happened was we had a large retriever, and he stuck his nose on the track, and the platform at the time was much lower. It was about 2.5 feet off the ground, and my dad did that so we could run trains as youngsters, and the dog put his nose across the track, and as you guys can see, it's a nice streamlined front. Yeah, it took a nosedive. And if you guys haven't dealt with these before, these are called gunmetal torpedo engines, and the material that they're made of is really between a ceramic and a very cheap pot metal. And they shatter, they break into a million pieces, and sometimes they break into chunks. Alright, so we're going to go through each one of these locomotives, and each one is a little bit different in style, or just little things Lionel changed up through time. It's just very interesting. So first we're going to start with this one on my left, and this is the Lionel Jr. 1688. So you check this out. So there's Lionel 1688E on the side, and you can see that for the wheels there aren't really clear spokes. It's kind of like wagon wheels. Still have the clip pickups, and just underneath it's very simple. And right here, this is where it gets interesting. There it is, Lionel Jr. They also, you'll see later on, they put screws in here instead of a rivet that hold on your brackets. So this thing kind of clanks along the track. It's also very light, and there's a space in the back. You see my finger can actually go through. They left out a lot of the shell. So this is kind of a streamlined production run of this loco. So next, we're going to move on to the first normal 1688. This one's much heavier. They added more weight in the back. There you go, 1688E right there. And also in the back they have this plate. And if you look underneath, all of this weight back in here. Very interesting how they did that. And this one says 027 Lionel, built in good old United States of America, Lionel Corporation, New York. And this has the same motor style. You can see they also added a different wheel set in here. This one would have gone into like a 1684, something like that. Could also use these wheels. And it's just interesting how they would have done that. A little bit more versatile. So, move on to the next loco. And this one is pretty cool. Someone, as you guys could see, did the modification of the Pennsylvania keystone on top. And I forgot to mention the bolts that hold on your brackets there. And this one runs extremely smooth. And they also left that motor style with that wheel set on there as well. Someone actually labeled this 3768, and if you look that up, that's actually the correct numbering for a K4 Streamlined. It's pretty cool. I'm assuming someone had a connection with the Pennsylvania, so they decided to modify that. Same style motor on the bottom, Lionel 027, but you can also see the way this mounts before you get into the black variation. The motor mounts with screws on top. There's a flange that holds that in, and then up top here, the front truck, your pilot, is actually held in with the Phillips head screw right there. Then you flip it around on the other side as well. Forgot to mention too, when going to this variation from the last two, they started to kind of change up the lantern style, and you can see how this is loose. That one's tighter, but this one is kind of loose. They're just heat pressed into the shell, and this one as well is broken off. This one, yeah, you can see it's loose. That's just heat pressed in. Then they went with this style, I guess in that late period. This is glued in. These are probably reproduction lanterns. I know for this guy up here, I did replace the lanterns in there. You can also see that there's different style lenses for your headlamp. And one of these is actually yellow, which I did not do, which I think is really interesting. Let's move on to the next variation. And this is the later black version. They just went to Lionel line 1688, and how this motor mounts is completely different than the one before. So on the bottom, you still have the clip pickups, which can be very finicky with the plastic. It's not as active or springy. And the wheels are a little bit smaller, different style flanging on there, different style gearing in there as well. And if we go to how the motor mounts, you have your flathead screw up here, but then we also have a pin. It's really like a long, elongated screw that goes through the entire shell to the other side. You can see it in here. Goes through there to the other side there. That holds your motor in, and then up here, there's that hole next to my thumb right here. That goes through to this flathead screw right there. So that's how that motor sits in there. A little bit different things on here. A little bit more flashy black. Some of these are flat silver. Like this one in the middle is kind of a flat color compared to these two. And this is a flat gunmetal. And then the other interesting thing is you guys can see that the E unit or your reverse unit tab, these are all in line because they're using the same style motor. In line, then you get to this one, the E unit would be right here, but they moved it back. So, it gets a little bit more complex. So if you ever want to fix one of these locomotives, you have to find one with the correct motor mount style and E unit placement. So these three take the same style motor and mount system, and this one's different. Now I have seen other 1688s, they move the E unit up here and also further back there, which is very interesting. Alright, so now we're on to the last of the set of 5 that I own. And this one is actually very special to me. I saved the best for last. This one, my father and I actually repaired, got it working, and it was the first working 1688 of our collection since the whole incident with the dog and all of that. Now this one used to be a silver, just like I believe it was closer to this right here, and someone painted it blue. They also messed with the wheels. They painted them red with white pinstripes. We actually got all of that off of there. And what else did they do? They painted the all the arms here, all different colors. I think they were purple. The wheels up front, your pilots, you can see they are kind of dremeled down. Someone painted those black. Same with the rear truck there. But yeah, just really, really interesting what they did. And I actually painted this with an airbrush about 15 years ago. And it came out okay. I mean, there's some rough spots, but we kind of liked the weathering look up there. It was a project. I mean, it was just him and I just working on a train. I learned how these engines go together. So then I was able to purchase other locos. Oh, and I also forgot to mention on the side, where it says 1688 Lionel lines, I by mistake polished it down to the brass. So all of these are like a nickel over brass, or I believe it's a nickel over brass. So what you're seeing there is nickel, and I wore the nickel off because someone painted over it. I think it was all black, and yeah, I kind of did my own modification there. All of these run, but I'm going to pick the best for the running portion of this video. And I do have one last honorable mention of the K4S collection of mine, and that is this guy here. And we are going to run this today. This is my 1668 K4S, and this is from the early 1940s. Still says 027 on the bottom, and this thing runs beautifully. Another interesting point, they put the E unit all the way up front towards the headlight, which is really interesting. And these are the original headlamps, all original coloring on here. They kind of went with a really nice Art Deco look for the nameplate. I love that. The back still has that kind of like a butt plate. Yeah, just a really nice runner. Everything on here runs pretty well. The E unit does get stuck, so I usually put that in forward. So if it goes over a switch and jumps out, it doesn't go in reverse. Alright, so now I have the locomotive facing the other direction, so you guys can get a good look at the front. I love this engine all lit up, and I actually just locked the E unit into neutral, so you can see the headlamp and lanterns all illuminated there. Funny thing is with the circle up here, it actually shines through, so when this is riding near the wall, you actually see this big circle on the wall. It's kind of funny. Beautiful piece. I love how they added this handrail going all the way back to the cab. There would be cab windows up there, but it's all molded in, so we're just have to use our imagination on that one. I love the venting they put here, and just other things like this nameplate really just adds a nice touch. The E unit on here is actually 3 positions, so you get forward, neutral, and reverse. They added ornamental whistles up here, and also a steam valve up top. Alright everyone, so here is a 2689W whistling tender. So check this out first. Let's hear this whistle. We can actually crank it now. So there you go. Alright, so here is forward, neutral, and reverse. And one thing I did mention before, these engines tend to jump switches, and it also messes with the E unit, so sometimes if you trip a switch or if it jumps the switch, it'll trigger the E unit into neutral. So with these, if I run them up here, I tend to lock them into forward. So check this out. And as you guys can see, it jumped the switch, which also put the train into neutral. So right now, there we go, into reverse. And sometimes it even derails. Alright everyone, so now we have a 1688 hooked up to a beautiful set of pre-war tin plate cars. So let's go down the line. Here's our engine. Here's our whistling tender, as you guys saw before. And this is a car that I added on, did not come with the set, but it's a beautiful Sunoco oil. It says motor oil on this one. I love the graphics on these Sunoco cars. Go down a little bit further. This is the original car to the set. This is a Baby Ruth Boxcar here, numbered 1679. I love the graphics. It's so basic, but it actually gives you the capacity, the weight, and also the year built. Look at that, 1939. So that gives us a rough year of when the set would have been manufactured. Go down a little bit further. Here's the second car of the set, and this is also listed as 1940 right on the tanker car. These two cars would have been in the set, and the next car is actually an add-on that was given to me later on, so let's check this out. Here we go. Here's another Baby Ruth style car. It's got the different Lionel lines logo up top, and Baby Ruth is actually like in a loaf. It's kind of interesting. This was given to me as a gift, and I don't really see a year on here, but I'm sure there's a year on there somewhere. Let's go on to the next car here. And this is the Caboose that came with that 3-car set. And yes, it's a New York Central Caboose with a Pennsylvania Railroad style locomotive. All right, everyone, so all aboard. Everyone, that's going to conclude this Nick's review of the Lionel 1688 and also 1668 kind of thrown in there. Both these engines are from around the same time period, so that's why I kind of threw the 1668 in there as well. I did get her working. It looked like it just needed a new E unit because the E unit that was in the locomotive right here appeared to be from the MPC era. It was a replacement part, and it was kind of a melted mess. So I'm not sure how that happened, but I actually put an OEM part back in here. I had some pre-war E units, so I threw one back in there for her. It's working better than ever. But hopefully you guys like seeing the little bit of a smoke effect there, and also became one of my first YouTube shorts of all time. So definitely check that out. But anyways, other comments I forgot to mention is that the actual K4 Pacific from the Pennsylvania Railroad was actually a 4-6-2 wheel arrangement, not the 2-4-2 as the 1688 or 2-6-2 like the 1668. So just kind of something to throw in there. And Lionel actually kept that 2-6-2 wheel arrangement all the way up to the post-war era with the awesome 2025, which I've also reviewed on this channel. Definitely check out that video. But anyways, if you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing and make sure to hit that bell for all so you don't miss reviews just like this. I also love reading your guys' comments, and just giving the video a like really helps out the channel. Also, don't forget to check out our Monday Run Day Lives every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And also, I'm going to start posting YouTube shorts so you guys can see run sessions and things like that, maybe accessory reviews or small upgrades around the train garden. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy railroading.